Hi, everybody. I'm Mary Ellen Slayter. I'm your moderator today, and I am so excited to invite you to this webinar with my friends over at X Team. And we are going to be talking about how to hire awesome tech talent in this crazy market. And so I am so excited to have this panel here, in terms of just bringing in the experiences they're bringing in and the perspectives. And I'm really excited to share this with you as well. So I'm going to hand this over to my panelists. Introduce yourselves briefly.
So Jonathan Ortiz here. You can call me Joti. I'm the VP of Talent Acquisition here at X Team, working for around 15, 16 years already on everything related to talent. So welcome.
Hello, everyone. My name is Maria. I'm the VP of Technical Account Management here at X Team. I have a background in computer science, and for the past 5 years, I've been working in staffing development teams. And since I became acquainted in all the processes involved in staffing development teams, I became really passionate about it. So I'm really looking forward to all the interesting topics that we're going to talk about today.
All right, Chris.
Hi, my name is Chris Lavender, Vice President of Engineering at Instil, which is a startup in LA. We are building tools that are purpose-built for nonprofits in their journey to raise money. I've been managing engineering teams now for at least 10 years, and very, very keen on the hiring process and how we build culture and develop high-performing teams.
Mm-hmm. And I think, tell us a bit more about Instil. Like tell us just a bit about what you're building. You mentioned it's for nonprofits, but what y'all are building is actually quite cool. Why don't you give us like the 2-minute elevator pitch?
Yeah, the 2-minute is that the process of raising money for a nonprofit organization is very similar to selling a product. You're trying to, kind of exchange funds or whatever for a purpose or whatnot. However, it's not the same. It's actually, the details are very, very, very different. And there's just not a lot of tooling out there that is really purpose-built for nonprofits and how they manage not just raising money specifically, but how you develop the relationships that lead toward those fundraising efforts. So that's where we come in, is like, look, we're not going to rebuild a Salesforce or other kind of CRM like that. We're going to actually focus with the nonprofit journey as the first-class citizen of the product. That's why we're here. That's what we're doing. And it's huge. It's a huge opportunity, actually. Nonprofit space is massive. There's a tremendous amount of money that's moved toward nonprofit efforts. And it's a huge need. If you've worked with any nonprofits, which I hope everybody spends some time doing some volunteer work, so many of them are run off spreadsheets, and it's like banging rocks together. So it's a big opportunity to improve process.
And most of the software, I have to tell you, as somebody who's been a board member, most of the software, actually, I'd prefer spreadsheets. Like, it's pretty bad. Like, yeah. I go back and forth between what I use in my business and what I use. And I ran my first capital campaign. I was the president of a foundation for the high school that I went to. And I was a young woman before that. I actually, all my gray hair actually came about during the planning of that capital campaign. So where were you, Chris? Where was this tool? So I think this is like very, very cool. It's very cool what you're doing. And then everybody, we got folks coming in from Las Vegas. I've got somebody coming in from India. I got Singapore, LA. And where are y'all coming in from? Just real quick. Where's everybody sitting today?
Medellin, Colombia.
Oh, right. You're right.
Argentina, in my case.
Oh, cool. Are you in Buenos Aires, or are you out in like somewhere else?
No, I'm in a smaller city. It's in the same province as Buenos Aires, but it's in the south. It's called Bahía Blanca.
Very cool. And then, Chris, what about you?
If you're outside of LA, I'm in LA. And if you're in LA, I'm in Fullerton. So if you're nearby Fullerton, give me a ring. We'll get some coffee.
All right. And I'm in lovely Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which people are always asking me how far that is from New Orleans. The answer is about an hour. But hey, we're the state capital, and we have a very large university here, and you should come visit. But yeah, so thanks. So this is one of my favorite things about X-Teamers, actually. I feel like every time I'm on a call, everybody is from from somewhere else. And then even that might even be where they live. It's like everybody is just doing cool things. And so I always like to check in on that. All right, let's jump in. The first thing I want to talk to y'all about is like, what on earth is going on with tech and talent right now. Like, I feel like this hiring landscape, I've been covering work and future of work for 20 something years, dating back to my days as a career advice columnist for the Washington Post and a finance editor. I've never seen anything like this. I feel like on one hand, we're laying people off. On the other hand, there's like super crazy demand for stuff. And tell me what's your read on this? And I'm going to start with you, Yoti. Like, tell me what is happening out there. I'm a hiring manager and I'm trying to figure out what is happening.
It's a tough one because right now on the industry, there's so many things changing, and we need to somehow, and companies needs to constantly change and adapt to new things that are coming. For example, the famous AI that is right now, everybody is talking about that. And AI is it's not only just ChatGPT, as a lot of people feel like. It has a huge umbrella of things that it's amazing, and it's so difficult to keep up. Also, companies are struggling, for example, with layoffs. Some markets are being are struggling a little bit more than others. Also, companies are struggling to keep their talent because there's so much competition nowadays. And sometimes, company needs to remember that people wants to be on a place that they feel valued, that they feel proud. And so the company needs to take care of well-being. And sometimes we forget about that thing. And because, the person might be great at, I don't know, on the front end, back end, but if the person doesn't feel like valued, and another company starts like saying beautiful things to their ears, they will feel, tell me a little bit more about that. Even if they're gonna do the same thing on a technical level, if they feel like they're gonna be treated a little bit better here, let's listen.
Is it just money?
Yes.
Is it just about the money?
No.
Let me ask you this, because you're talking
No.
big in your ear. And I think there's this stereotype, I think sometimes, and I think it's unfair based on the software engineers I know. They assume like, oh, it's just about the money. And they're just going from, what do you see? Is it about the money or is it something else?
There's salary and there's emotional salary. And this is where that thing where you are not just a number on a spreadsheet, or I don't know, you need to make sure that they are valued, that they belong somewhere, that they feel proud about the brand and about the project that they're working on. Sometimes companies forget about that.
Well, that's interesting. Maria, what are you seeing out there? What is going on? You're like talking to the hiring managers, you're talking to the talent. Like, what is your read?
Sure. Well, when it comes to perhaps the large layoffs that we've been seeing going on, there are multiple reasons. One of them that I can think of is shifts in technology, because as new technologies emerge, there may be a reduced need for skills that were associated with older technologies, perhaps, which can lead to layoffs. There's also business restructuring. So companies often realign their strategies based on market demands and future projections. So this can include divesting from certain areas while investing in others, which can lead to job cuts in some departments and hiring in others. So these are like the several perhaps reasons that I see nowadays that may explain why everything seems so crazy.
Mm-hmm. All right, Chris, you're in the thick of it. You're right on the front lines of this. What are you seeing?
Yeah, and my perspective is going to be pretty United States focused, because I think the mechanics might be slightly different in different markets. But I think it's a confluence of things. One of which is I still think we're feeling the after effects of the whole COVID situation. Some massive wild swings during COVID. First, we saw insane hiring, just nuts, everyone just gobbling people up. Over hiring, essentially, because it's trying to project, well, what do we do? We need these workers, or just for whatever reason. It's kind of nuts. Salary shot way up, and the offers kind of went through the roof, and then have kind of a big sobering with AI kind of coming on the stage, which And I think another reaction there's an overreaction of AI is going to save the world and we're not going to need all these folks, which I don't think is going to be the case. And now if you look at, Jonathan's right. People are not just numbers on a spreadsheet, right? When you're thinking about the organizational success, you have to think about a bigger picture. However, at the same time, there are numbers on a spreadsheet that are, the most expensive thing you have on the budget is your resources, right? So if you're making these wild swings like this, and you're in this situation now where you have to figure out how to shore up your budget, then the layoffs happen, right? And so now you have a big flood of folks who are looking again, and we're kind of, I feel we're on the tail end, I think, of this sort of herky-jerky back and forth, just, when things are going to settle down. And also think not just with the hiring, but also this, like the AI revolution, we're really at a moment of, hopefully backside of peak inflated expectations and to settle down into a moment where we realize kind of, wait, how will this actually fit into to our world at work? And, I think those are the factors they're playing into. Also in the US, there's, at least that I'm aware of, a little bit more of an awakening coming out of COVID about how you think about work-life balance. And, we historically kind of have it's kind of baked into society of hard work and really building something on your own, which I think is fantastic that we can, we have the freedom to do. At the same time, it's like not necessarily required for everybody. Why do we have to be killing ourselves every single day? And people are becoming aware of this. And so that's also, I think there's a hot cold about like, do I need to work right now? Do I spend some time with my family at home? Do I, there's a little bit of that going on as well. And I think all those factors are playing into sort of like a weirdo kind of what is happening kind of moment. And it's I found in interviewing people, it's very case by case where folks' heads are at. And it's very, I think it's kind of exciting because it's makes every interview screen kind of exciting because you don't know what you're going to get when you talk to somebody. But I don't think it's forever. I think things settle down in another 6 months to a year. It gets a little bit more normalized.
I want to go back to something that you said. We're going to dig into this for a little bit because I think this is important. I'm going to quote one of my favorite old Star Trek quotes, which is say more words. That's something Seven of Nine once said to something. It became like a shorthand in my family. Like, keep going. And what you said, the overhyped like expectations about AI. And it's sort of like because I also see that, and I want you to say more words. Like, what do you mean by that when you say that? Like, expectations.
I'm getting a little long in the tooth, so I'm old enough to remember the .com bust, and I really feel like we are. It's very analogous to pre-.com bust of overhyped expectations of what the internet was going to do short term, not long term. And obviously, innovators like Jeff Bezos is the most obvious one, who saw through the whole thing and weathered the storm. But there's, for folks who are around, there was a moment there where a very similar, insane, inflated expectations of the internet, well beyond what the internet could do at that moment. And that's where you end up with sort of a bust. And out of that bust comes Google and, Amazon raging. Remember when that happened, Amazon still sold books and that was it. Right. So now no one even thinks about that as Amazon's a bookstore. Right. Like it's kind of moved on. So I do think anybody that uses AI in its current form day to day, I think realize that there's a tremendous value here. This is not a flash in the pan hype thing. There's going to be a key tool for us in the future. However, the expectations of what we're able to do today, I think, are well beyond what's reasonable, and it'll settle down. That's what I mean. Like I feel like we're at that there's the peak height of expectations, and you go to the trough of delusionment, and I personally foresee a trough of delusionment for a minute that will also be out of balance, and everyone will be like, oh, this is baloney, and AI doesn't do anything, and all hype, which is also not true, and then we'll flatten out. But I think that's playing into a lot of the also overreactions of, do we need this many people or not? Right? Can we just spend it on tech and then get the same value? I think that there's incredible benefits that you can get out of enabling your human team with AI tools. I think the notion that AI short term and frankly for myself, even long term, totally replaces human beings and as we think of it today in our jobs, it's just not realistic, you know.
That's
We're
the way,
still,
go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, I think that we're on a learning stage, still on a learning stage to understand its capabilities and to actually embrace it in a good way as a tool that we can help each other and not, I don't know, there's still people that feel like something like the Terminator movie is gonna happen. Like it's gonna kill us all, or that is, I don't know, that is gonna replace most of our jobs. It's not like that. We just need to learn how to use it properly, take advantage of it, and be more efficient, more productive.
I think it's what do you want to add something to that, Maria?
No, I was just saying that, yeah, I completely agree, definitely. I think that it's a great tool, like Chris was mentioning, but I think that it's also being very overhyped as well. So I think that it's going to take, like a learning curve for all of us. We've seen that it has amazing capabilities. It is great for learning, but I also fear that it kind of is destroying, in a sense, creativity as well.
Oh no, it's not. That's a whole other webinar. So I own a content agency, and what I tell people, I'm pretty bullish on it, like in a very intentional way. And I'm like, wow, if it's supposed to destroy content jobs, why am I so busy? Like, when is it going to come and take my job? Because I would really like to. I just have to be smart about it. And I think it's true of recruiting. I think it's true of software development. There are things, I mean, so we have a whole other webinar coming up. So y'all, if you're listening to this and you want to, we actually have one about hiring around AI skills coming up. And so I'm gonna park, because I feel like we could probably talk about this for the rest of the hour. But I wanted to hear Chris's take, and that actually all makes sense to me. And I'm gonna track, and let's transition now into, you've got all this chaos, but you have things you need to get built. You have projects, right? You're a startup, like in Chris's case. You've got even more mature businesses have initiatives. It's not a good feeling to hire a bunch of people and lay them off. Like, it's not, I mean, how do you decide? And I'm going to start with you, Chris, on this one. Like, how do you decide whether to hire somebody on staff, like full time, go get an engine, go get like a team on demand. So I'll go with X team, go just grab a freelancer. Like, what is that calculus? Like, walk us through how you make that decision.
Well, there's a lot of inputs. I think the main thing, the main deciding factor about going with any sort of contractor versus a full-time employee is really time, right? Like, how much time do we have? Because you're talking about for a full-time employee, the best I've been able to predictably do is about a 60-day turnaround from opening the job description to closing it out. That's pretty, that's achievable on a consistent basis. So right there, baked in is 2 months of just getting somebody signed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that, I mean, and I think that's pretty quick. Some people go way longer trying to fill full-time positions, right? For various reasons I think are addressable, but that's one big factor. Then you have to factor in, after that 60 days, right? This is a long-term commitment, right? You want to make sure when you're in a full-time employee is a little bit more like getting in a marriage as opposed to a casual date. And it really is you have to think about it as that kind of long-term investment. So if we're in a project, and this is the recent engagement with X Team fits right in this pocket, right? We don't have it's not in our plan to expand the team to the number of hands that we need for a big project we were starting just a number of months ago. And so boom, right there, it's like, okay, well, this is going to be way better if we can get some contract help that can really add some horsepower. So then the next factor is, where do we go? Who do we talk to? I mean, anyone that's a hiring manager knows that it's a sea of sales folks trying to sell you, resources, a bunch of different and all of them vet, and they all do, extensive technical interviews and blah, 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 blah. So getting through that sea was a little bit challenging. I found X Team through a couple of recommendations, and that's usually where I go, is I go out to my own network and I'm like, hey, who have you used? Almost invariably, it tends to not be a issue of the agency and has more to do with the human beings that you're talking to. ensuring that like these are solid folks that are going to follow through, right? And I mean, like with the whether that's the salesperson or the sourcer or the management or whatnot. And when I connected with X Team, I was really stoked about one of the things, how they drive their an internal engineering culture is a bit different than most agencies, right? And so that was a real plus. The other thing that was very key is the speed. Like, is there a team there that to help me identify the contractors that are going to help us, that actually work for us? Because we don't need, I don't need seats warmed. We need folks to come in and be effective in our problem space as quickly as possible. So there's some sourcing involved there, right? To match make, right? That's very, very quick. The bar isn't quite as high if we're trying to get into a full-time employee, because the relationship doesn't need to be at that as long-term, but there's still some diligence that needs to go there to make sure we have a good fit. Because again, time is compressed. We don't have a lot of time for, kerfuffling and mishaps and whatnot. So all those things go into play. And then at the end of the day, it's an ongoing process of I'm very keen when I'm bringing anyone onto the team, whether it be a full-time employee or a contractor, it makes no difference to me. This is somebody that we're adding to the team, the chemistry and our throughput. So it's a high priority to me that this is how we fill this position. And so I make a point to get as much detailed, specific, not way overload, but as much detailed information as I can to whoever is sourcing these people. I get feedback to them as quickly as possible that's specific, both in not just negative, but positive, so that they can tune who they're looking for. Because sometimes it's hard skills, sometimes it's soft skills, sometimes we're very busy and we miss things in our initial job description or whatnot. And those things factor into have helped me be really successful in filling these roles. I don't think we had with this X Team engagement. Right now we have 5 contractors on the team. I mean, the whole team is 10. So, we don't have a big team, but a third of our team right now is X Team contractors. And I don't think we had a longer lead time, more than 2 weeks, before somebody was like either on board and working for us, or within a week out of that, they're signed and they have to finish out another contract. So it's pretty lightning fast. Oh, you're muted. I can't hear you, Mary.
You're muted.
Sorry, I was muted because there was just a sound outside. I was like, I didn't want to have that interrupt you there. It's interesting as you're describing that. One of the things I want to dig in here with you a little bit is around like the teaming piece of it. You mentioned sort of having teams, and like a half or third of your team is from X Team, and like team norms, like in rituals and how you bring that in. I'm curious to hear a little more about how you do that. Like, you got this group of people, you're bringing them in. What do your rituals look like? How do you onboard them? Like, I know we're kind of talk about that later, but this seemed like a natural time. That seems like a tough job.
Well, I look, the human capital thing is to me, I tell people, folks on the team even all the time, program the computers, not the people, right? Like the engineers are like, our business is designing process to solve problems and then codifying that process in code, right? That's great. That's how it scales, right? That's how we're so impactful. But that's not the humans. Humans don't tend to be responsive to being programmed and, and so I spend as much energy as I can on the human touch of it, and and making sure that we are putting processes in place for the dumb, toil, repetitive baloney that we don't need to have in our heads, and spending much more time on the soft touch stuff that really matters. So where am I going with this? From the very first minute that folks come on board, honestly, if it's a contractor or a full-time employee, I am right there. I need to make sure that there's a line of communication. I got a big title and all this stuff. I want to make sure that they feel like they can reach out to me and then communicate. Okay, that's number one, right? And then I usually help introduce and make sure we make a point. We have rituals within the team to really celebrate new people coming on, which is a great team cultural aspect that we've developed. And the idea of being a tide that rises all ships is something that I really, hammer home with the teams that I work with, that your value add has way more to do with your impact on the people around you than just your own personal work, right? This is how we get to the multiplier. Now it's kind of an old school concept, right, of a multiplier software engineer. And so those things factor in no matter what our process or ceremonies are. Now, right now, our ceremonies are very specific because we're doing a large replatforming effort. And so we're aligned horizontally where there's a back-end team and a front-end team. And they do somewhat different processes where the front-end team is doing daily huddles and they do a couple light ceremonies. And the back-end team keeps it way more lightweight where they do a weekly, guild meeting. And we do a combination of Slack stand-ups or whatnot. I am not prescriptive at all about these processes unless I see a real significant gap. I really try to encourage the team to look, your process needs to work for you all to get work done. And there needs to be a window that I can understand how things are happening. That's it. That's the bar. And beyond that, I'm flexible on how they get that stuff done. When I build it that way, then I found that adding people becomes very easy to assimilate them into what's going on because there's a clear pattern that's driven by the team, not prescribed by me from the top down.
Okay. All right. My ex-teamers, how do you help people decide this? Because I know that to kind of even bring it back to that original question, somebody's trying to decide, do I get a team? Do I hire? Do I get some contractor? How do you walk them through if the on-demand teams model is right?
On my side, I think there's 3 pillars: budget, the tech stack, or how difficult is the tech stack that you're looking for, and the speed, which is also something that Chris mentioned. That is so critical because sadly, the ugly truth is that there are processes that can take months, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Sometimes, I don't know, depending on the industry. For example, if you go to a video game industry, a very specific video game engineer can take 10, 11 months to be placed. That's a lot. And for a business, for a product, speed or time is equal to money as well. So they cannot afford, the companies cannot afford to have those type of long processes. And for example, there are situations on the budget side. So hiring someone on your staff is way more expensive than just go on demand talent that you know that you will pay that person for their work, hour, dollar, and you will be happy and they will be very knowledgeable because, for example, let's go with Chris. Chris tells me or tells X team, hey, I need this, and this. And since we have clear expectations, clear details of what Chris needs, we will find the person ASAP and we will deliver. And he can rely on the technical side and the person will hit the ground running pretty much. And with a correct onboarding, that person will start contributing to the product. And I'm not gonna say in the first week, but probably in the next 2 weeks, that person is gonna be already a very productive person. So yeah, and sometimes let's say that the company is handling a very specific tech stack. And that is also attached to speed. If the technical skill is so difficult, that takes even longer. And probably companies that are on the on-demand side, like X-Team, will help really fast. We're usually capable to find pretty much any tech stack all over the world. And as Chris said, we are usually quite fast in that. So.
All right, Maria, what would you add to that? How do you help people decide?
Yeah, definitely. Well, the things that I've found that are, for me, like my top 3 are, expectations, understanding the client's expectations. This determines especially the seniority of the developers that they're going to onboard. And it's clearly tied when it comes to when they need certain things delivered, the urgency that they have to have certain things ready. So knowing all those expectations from the get-go is really important. Another thing is also understanding the pain points, like the most important things that clients need to solve and how fast they need to solve them. And then the third component, I think it's trade-offs, knowing which things we can are more important than others so that we can prioritize the skill sets of the people that we're going to recruit and look for. Those are the things that I think are most important when we're staffing new teams in my experience. Yeah.
All right. I think anybody else want to say anything about that before we move on to the next piece, which is about the care and feeding of our engineers? Like, anything else on the models? All right. Well, I know that Yosi, you are very passionate about this. I know you care a whole lot about this because you started off talking about this. Like, how do you get these engineers in here and you're working on these projects? Like, how do we keep them engaged? How do we, no matter how they're hired, how do we keep them feeling loved and, motivated and like you got them in the door. Now, how do you keep them happy and doing good work?
Me?
Mm-hmm. You have very strong feelings about this, from what I can tell.
Okay.
How do we do it? How do we keep them in there? Like,
okay. Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna talk specifically about what X team have accomplished,
Mm-hmm.
which is the feeling like this is not a company, but an actual community, that the people are capable of being friends, that they're not just co-workers. And this goes to every single person on the company. It doesn't matter if it's a recruiter, if it's a software developer, if it's a CSM, if it's on the sales side, we are all X-teamers. And from that perspective, we built a very beautiful community that if I could show you, for example, Slack, I will show you so many weird channels for anything that you can imagine. And I don't know, if the person loves, if someone loves movies, there's a place where that person can go and start sharing. And there's always going to be someone that is going to be oh, I saw that one, but I didn't like it because of and start the conversation. If you love, of course, they all love tech. But if there's something very specific, I don't know, let's say Apple. I know that Apple is going to have a new event in September. Usually when Apple is launching something, boom, automatically you will see that Slack channel, boom, boom, boom. What do you think about this? Should I change to this? But why? And so that's the thing. First of all, the feeling of belonging to something that is not just a number on a spreadsheet, but you actually have people that care. And I always say this, and I think time has proven this more than ever, is that if someone is happy and is being cared of, that person will deliver way better than any other one that actually feel like, I need to wake up and go to work again just because I have the need,
Mm-hmm.
But if you actually feel passionate, proud, and it doesn't feel like a job anymore. It's more like a hobby, and you're getting paid for it. And you go and you still remember, hey, I have friends here. Let's fool around. Or for example, we have amazing events all over the world where people gather and they might be even on another thing, another projects, but again, ex-teamers working, sharing adventures, sharing and creating new memories. It's hard to find things like that, and that's why the retention that we have at X-Team is amazing, because pretty much everyone wants to stay here, and it's not just because of X-Team. Also, the projects, the partners are offering really interesting projects in Instil, and we have so many partners all over the world. But again, it's about being proud. It's about being proud and feel like, oh, they care about me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna deliver because, yeah, that's my way to repay what they are doing for me. So
it's being part of a larger community. And I think that it's incredible how X-Team this, and I'm talking out of my personal experience because I've been working remotely for many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've experienced in the past while I was working remotely, and this is also the experience that many people have when they work remotely, is that it can be very isolating. Because you usually work every day, perhaps with a small team. You only know the people that work closely with you, and that's it. You don't know anyone else because maybe you're working from a part of the world where maybe not many other people in the same company work out of. But when you have this strong sense of community that X-Team has, I've never seen like other companies handle remote work in this way. And I was super impressed because immediately when I started working at X-Team, I was amazed to see how I didn't feel like alone anymore. I felt that I had like a group of people to back me up. I was able to make a lot of friends and know people from that were working in different teams as my own in different projects. And it's amazing how all this effort that X-Team does in creating this community has worked out so well and given this sense of community that a lot of people feel like they're lacking in their job.
Mm. So
Imagine if, I'm just going to say one little thing is, the beauty of it is that if a company, for example, uses X-Team, they don't have to. Of course, if they can align and treat the developers really well and all that, it's amazing. But X-Team will do all the well-being, and the company will get all the amazing deliverables.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win for everyone.
So, Chris, what does this look like for you? Like, I mean, so you've got a team. Obviously, we're talking about kind of with the X-Team model. I also dropped a thing in here. So, X-Team Slack is legendary. Like, you are a case study. Like, you basically turned it into a social network. It's wild. And I dropped the Slack case study in here if anybody wants to check it out. But, Chris, how do you do this? I mean, you got a startup. It's mission driven, which I feel like probably helps in some ways, right? Like, but also other people are not going to be. How do you keep people engaged? Because you're sitting here, you've got people on staff, you've got your contractors, how do you keep everybody pulling in the same direction and feeling good about the work?
I mean, there's simple stuff, right? Trying to make a point, particularly one-on-one, to call out, like, just thank people when they actually, sometimes it's not obvious when you're being helpful. And you've actually done something that's really kind of, much more helpful than your own little point of view. I try to really jump on those moments and hammer home, like, no, this is a bigger impact than you think, actually, and really extend thanks in personal moments. At a larger scale, I really think it comes down to aligning the person with the problem that is just, a few steps beyond what they think they can do, right? In the sense that you want people to have an opportunity to grow and stretch themselves. It's not too much. And in that journey, right, I think there's a lot to be said about setting people up for success, giving them a goal, giving them a something they can work on that is not only something that is achievable for them, but also has greater impact beyond their own personal contribution. And rinse and repeat, hold them to account to it too, because a lot of times setting people up for success looks a whole heck of a lot like setting up for failure, right? You need to have an opportunity for failure to have success. So as a manager, I think part of my job is balancing that and making sure that somebody is on something that they can really succeed at, even though they might feel a little bit stressed about it, but is not too much for them to it's not too much for them to bite off, so to speak. You don't want to put people way in the deep end of the ocean with all the sharks when they're really probably should be closer to shore, even though they're worried about getting in the water. It's my point. So in that way, right, then even the failures become moments of learning and opportunities to grow. And then my main thing is not like when I think about hiring or firing sort of situations, it's not about whether or not somebody fails. Failure is absolutely not only acceptable, but desirable. It's how you learn, is having some missteps. But the main thing is this somebody, or is this a situation where there's continually a growth mindset? The growth mindset that someone brings to it, where it's like, no matter what happens here, I am a unstoppable force of learning. I know that those are the folks, regardless of any other hangups, that are going to succeed. And then it becomes my job to make sure I am putting them in a role, in a position that the organization can also benefit from at the same time. And so those sort of successes, right, build on themselves, and not only for the person to stay engaged and feel like they're contributing and really having a meaningful impact, but also as a light, a guiding light for others around the organization to see that, this is a place that I can really develop my skill set. I might need to take some action on my part, and I need to apply myself. Okay, that's fine. But I know there's an avenue here if I engage, and that I try to lean into that to be a positive feedback loop within the engineering culture that can build upon itself.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that actually, I feel like could apply to also in other places too. I think just sometimes people do forget that engineers need that. It's a very sad thing. So I love hearing this conversation, because that's what really helps make for great products and for great experiences. It's like, engineers are people too. All right. So we've got a few minutes here. Let's kind of going into questions. If anybody else has questions, and if you can drop them in the chat. And then in the meantime, like, I have a few questions myself. So when you think about adapting, like, I want to go back to that ritual thing around bringing people in, because I think in my experience, there are companies that treat their contractors like parts of the team as opposed to others, like, tend to outperform ones. Like, I consider that even as an agency, as a consultant, like when I come in and they're like, okay, thanks, we're going to go regroup as a team and decide what we want to tell you. I'm like, okay, this is going to fail. I'll see y'all later, And I'm curious if y'all see that as well. And like, if you do, like, what do you do to like get people out of that mindset, that us and them mindset with contractors, like, versus employees? Who wants to take that?
I mean, for me, I set it as an expectation. The significant differences between a contractor and employee are essentially administrative in my mind. They're not in the skills or the ceremonies or the processes. It's administrative difference. And that's not just for my team that are full-time employees that are working with these resources, but also for the resources themselves, right? Like, expectation there is like, you're coming in to contribute. My expectation is that you own this code that you are building, and you help share it, and this is you're part of a team. And now that may be for 6 months, that may be for 5 years, we don't know. I mean, it's variable because it's a contract. But again, that's an administrative point. There's no reason why that person cannot be equally, if not more, impactful than some full-time employees. And from a full-time employee perspective, right? Like, it's a bit you're in a little bit of a bubble, right? You're only working with the engineers in your team that are full-time employees. Having contractors come kind of, as you need them, and, cycling out sometimes or whatnot, it's a great way to add some fresh perspectives and different points of view, and in a light way, kind of flex the muscle of the team of how do we incorporate other perspectives and points of view and skill sets, and that kind of thing into the team. So it's a team building thing, and I set that expectation. And if I hear any language like you're referring to,
have you heard? You know what I'm talking about. You've heard this before.
That's them, and they're contractors, and so that means that it's substandard code or something like that. I mean, first of all, these are folks that want to do a great job just like anybody else. So what? So they're working for X team or whatever agency, and they're kind of here to help us. So it's a bit of, again, back to that growth mindset. If you've got a fixed mindset about this, and you're like, well, don't tread on my code, person in random place in the world, it's just not going to help anybody. If you take the opposite approach, it helps everybody. So it's I haven't found too much friction there when I set those expectations. I mean, people figure it out pretty quick. And at the end of the day, there are situations where it doesn't work out and we need, it's a weird fit or somebody isn't quite assimilating into our particular problem space or whatnot. But I found that to be way more the exception than the norm. Yeah, way more.
It's also, I think that speaks to what kind of leader you are too. Like if you're laying that out up front, like if you want to be in the band, you have to put your hat on, to quote, as my Steve Earle quote for that. It was like, come on, get up here. Let's get going. You don't get to like push people out.
Well, you don't really,
it doesn't really help.
You don't really have a right or a role to be upset at somebody when you never set expectations to start.
Right.
So, it's a team effort on both sides of the fence. It's really critical that you set expectations clear up front and ongoing and encouragement and make sure there's a path there. And then it's on the other side of the fence for folks to lean in and engage, right? That opportunity. But you can't expect them to engage if you're like just standing back and being like, well, you just secretly need to know what I need. It's not going to work. Oh,
I've got something more of a comment than a question, but I mean, this is the kind of thing I'm sort of talking about. But Jackie said, I have a group of contractors that I work with the last few years in 3 companies now, and they're great. And my challenge is that in a couple of these companies, they actually have policies against inviting contractors to the company all hands. And they're like, yeah, mostly administrative differences. And that's the kind of thing you might seem like a policy that is like a pretty horrible feeling, actually. I don't know. I mean, I see, Maria, you're kind of nodding your head. Is this something that you see as well? And like, how do you advise people and try to get them out of that mindset? Like,
Yes, I think it has been proven time and time again that team effort and contributions really outperform individual geniuses, let's say. If you take a team of experts and you put them to work together, if they are not able to work as a team, then they won't perform as well, even if they're experts in their craft, as a team that perhaps is less senior, but really knows how to work as part of a larger team of contributors. So I think it's really important to have to learn this mindset that it's all the great projects that have occurred in the industry are really people like standing in the shoulders of giants. It's always, small contributions of a lot of people that have worked in the same code base. And it's not so much about having individual contributors. And when you isolate people because out of a team, you say, well, this person is a contractor, I won't let them like in the all hands or kind of participate as part of the larger team. And actually, I think that this really will, in the long term, not contribute to the success of the project. It will, in some cases, really affect the performance of the team and how well, let's say, the end product will result in the end.
Okay. Add anything else to that, Yoti?
It also affects the ownership. If you split that, like contractor, I mean, for example, not letting them and go to the all hands. Why? They're putting their heart, their effort, their knowledge into the project, so just like any other employee. They should be allowed to be there. But if they are like feeling like they do not actually belong to that project, that affects the morale. So that's something to keep in mind. I have talked with so many people that work as a contractor, and a lot of times they tell me, I'm doing my best because I want to stay on this project, because they know that sometimes it's just maybe 3 months, but there's also the possibility to extend it a little bit more, and they want to get that extension, and they want to keep working on that project. Those are the type of things when we say ownership, being proud. They do their best. They want to get extended, and they want this contract not to last 3 months, 6 months, but why not years? We have here at X-Team people that have been working on projects our clients for 7, 8, 9 years, and they
Wow.
earn that. And the people on the leadership of those partners, they will tell us this person is amazing, and sometimes they just outperform any other employee because they are driven and passionate about that. So yeah.
I can
Right.
say something really quick to Jackie's comment, right? I think this is really important because it's a bit as a point that I think folks try to dance around. First of all, if you the contractors have opportunities just like anybody else to sign NDAs and like all of that stuff, just like anyone else on your team. So the notion that some kind of information might get leaked out that's sensitive or whatnot is no different with a contractor than a full-time employee at all. Like it's the same. So there's a question there of like, should you be sharing this information at all if you're worried about it leaking out? And I think, you want to have a transparency. And the second thing I try to hammer home is a sanity check in any of these moments. We should not be employing anybody we don't trust. If we do not trust somebody, we should not be employing them. And this gets to that sort of, they're contractors, so they can't be trusted. That's what? No. You should have contractors that you trust. They can do way more damage via code than any kind of financial.
Right. Right.
So,
right.
Yeah. It really, sometimes, and I've had this conversations with C-suites at large companies of really sanity checking. Like, hold on, do you not trust these people? Like, are you saying that I should not trust these folks that I'm managing? If that's the case, we need to have a totally different conversation.
Right.
Yeah. Because a lot of people don't want to, honestly, at the end of the day, it's more of a personal thing. I've found that they don't know these folks. They might have some perspective about contractors that are based in different parts of the world that may not be aligned with reality. But it does, at the end of the day, the fruits of that problem bear themselves as less engagement. And I'm stoked. I make it an option for our contractors to come to our all hands. I don't make it a requirement, but I'm so stoked when they're invested in like the strategy, not just the acceptance criteria of the story, but they're actually invested in what we're trying to do. It's huge. And that becomes your positive feedback loop of trust building, not the negative feedback loop of suspicion and, being kind of cloak and dagger about it.
Yeah, I think what always funny to me is like I'm seeing that in calendar and I'm just like, sir, this is a publicly traded company. This will be like in your earnings report next week. Like, what are you doing? Like, like it's not even that secret. It's not that secret. So, but yeah, it is about the trust and it is about building those relationships and giving people opportunities to like see each other as people and like, it's like, it's so simple. You said something at the beginning of this call, Chris, when I asked about things that you do and you're like, well, a lot of it's really simple, but it's like simple does not mean easy. So it's some of the hardest stuff. So we got 5 minutes here. And if anybody else has anything else coming in, I will give you a minute. But while we wait, I'm going to go around and give you each a chance to kind of close this out. And I'm going to have you ask your one favorite piece of advice for a hiring manager. So Chris, you're talking to another you, basically. A peer is like, I gotta nail this. I gotta build this team. What would you say in one sentence is the secret to hiring and building a high-performing engineering team right now in 2024? And I will let whoever wants to go first go first. You get one sentence.
So I would say the most important relationship you have in that journey is with whoever is sourcing, whoever is recruiting. Like that's the number one, the top priority. And their job is the hardest. And it stinks, and your calendar is impossible, and everyone else's calendar is impossible. It's the number one priority. So just make sure that respond quickly, give them free access to your calendar. Like if you want it to be over quick, make them the highest priority. Yeah.
You're just out here buttering up into all the recruiters in America. I just go we need to go ahead and just like take a shot of that and send that around.
I'm gonna tell you what, that's the other thing too. Out of that, you get a bunch of love from recruiters, and then it feeds itself, and recruiters have no problem working with you, and they give you the best folks.
They do. You get the best people. You get you send them snacks, send them Sure. All right. What would you do, Maria? What would you do? What's your best, one sentence? You got to have a high performing team. What do you do?
Yeah, definitely. I think that my tip would be to follow Chris's example because this is someone who really understands what he's looking for in the people that he wants to hire. And because he clearly understands what he's looking for, he is able to explain it to the recruitment team. And that is why the recruitment team can then deliver, because they already know exactly what Chris is looking for. And I think that this is important because when we don't really understand what our expectations are or what we're looking for, then it's really difficult for us to explain it clearly to someone else. And it will be highly unlikely that someone else will be able to understand what you are looking for if you don't know it yourself. So I think that this is one of the most important tips that I would give.
Clarity on expectations, clarity on what you need, paired with bribing recruiters. Yoti, you get to close us out. What do we? What's the secret?
What Chris and Maria said was perfect. You stole a little bit of my idea. It's pretty much always be fully aligned with the recruitment team, either if it's internal, if it's a staffing augmentation company like X Team or any other. Always be on full alignment. That's the only way that we can deliver what you want, which is literally an extension of your current team that will deliver. It's pretty much that. Full alignment, empathy with your team, with the contractors, and forget that they are contractors. They are your team.
Keeping a feedback loop as well. That is so important because it's super important for a recruitment team to understand when they fail, why they failed, as well as when they didn't fail, why they didn't fail, what a candidate presented that was so well received. So on having a constant feedback loop is really important as well to grow from mistakes.
Beautiful. All right. Well, that takes us to the end of our time. Yes, everybody drop your, Michael's so good. He's dropping in LinkedIn profiles in the chat for us so you can all stay in touch. Nice. This was delightful. Honestly, what I love about doing these types of webinars is there's always what we know we're going to talk about. And then there's always those juicy little bits that pop up that I wasn't expecting. I enjoyed like the little side quest about AI, and I enjoy there's all kinds of good stuff in there. So I want to thank everybody for joining us today. I want to thank the panelists for joining us as well. We will be putting this out on demand, so you'll be able to check out the recording, share it with colleagues. But there was a lot of really great advice in here, and I just want to thank all three of you for taking this time. This was terrific. Like I learned a lot personally, and I know that the folks who attended did as well.
Thank you, Mary Ellen, and thank you everyone that joined us today.
Thank you so much.